Anthony Hartwig here with another edition of the YSN's Hot Corner. I'm joined by a very special guest this week, Amanda Scarborough. Amanda, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Here at YSN, we really cover a lot of high school sports. So the first thing I always ask in these interviews, what were some of your favorite memories and things you look back on from your high school days and playing at that level? And what made that time of your life so important to you?
When I think back to high school, I just love that it was the first time that I got to actually play for my community and represent my community instead of a travel ball team or a league team. So I love the fact that I got to go to school with the same players that I was going to be playing with. That was the first time that that had really ever happened. And it was different, right? Go to school all day and then practice after. And it kind of prepared me for what it would be like to go to college and play and kind of get a little bit of the same taste and getting to play with older people too, with seniors when I was a freshman. That was something that was completely new to me too. So I don't know, there's a lot of just unique qualities, I think, of playing high school softball that really come to my mind that made it so special.
How much did your high school experience really prepare you for what you were going to see at the next level when you went to Texas A&M?
Yeah, a lot because I got to make varsity my freshman year. And so I was competing against really great competition, especially being from Texas, where Texas high school softball is extremely competitive. And the first 2 years, I was a number two pitcher behind a junior at the time, whenever I was a freshman, who ended up playing at Texas State. So I got to learn a lot from her and have one role at the beginning of my career and then a different role becoming the number one later on in my career. That just made me more well-rounded and more prepared to go to college.
You went on to play for Texas A&M and M and Coach Evans. What was your recruiting process like, and what made you land there? What were some of the things that made you fall in love with A&M and want made you want to be a part of that program?
I definitely started to go to some camps and clinics whenever I was a freshman, sophomore, around that time. Mostly just within Texas. I went to Texas State Camp, also Texas Tech and Texas A&M, and it was a great way just to get to see the school and get to see the field and work more closely with the coaches. So I feel like that's kind of where it started. And playing on a great travel ball team and getting to play in front of those coaches in big tournaments was definitely something that I will always remember. That experience of your heart beating fast and all these coaches being in the stands. Um, and around my junior year, I took an unofficial visit to Texas A&M and just fell in love with it. Coach Evans offered me a scholarship at that time, and I didn't need to take a unofficial or official visit to anywhere else because I love the fact that it was just an hour away from my hometown where I went to high school in Magnolia. And I wanted to stay close to home. I'm an only child, so that was important to me. And my parents ended up being able to come to mostly all of my home and away games. So loved A&M every single second of it. That was definitely the place for me and one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
I'm sure the recruiting process has changed a bit since you went through it. What are some of the biggest changes that you see in the way kids are recruited now based on how you were recruited and how kids were recruited back when you were recruited?
Everything just starts so much earlier. And I feel like it's causing more players to be more specialized earlier. And whenever I was playing, I don't even know if I really knew I wanted to play in college until maybe ninth grade, really starting to think seriously about it. And now it's like fifth and sixth graders are talking about what college they want to go to. And I didn't even really know that there was softball in college at that age. So I feel like it just kind of rushes development, rushes decisions. I'm just somebody who on and off the field, I'm a firm believer in just having patience and that time kind of heals all. So I hate that fact that it just kind of rushes decisions and pressure and mentally and physically just being so hard on athletes to make big decisions and have the pressure to perform that they get put on them from by their coaches, by their parents, by other teammates that they have to be the very best player in fifth and sixth grade and they don't have that chance to develop mentally and physically. So I feel like that's definitely the biggest difference. It's just more pressure put on these young athletes at a young age and they don't really get to be kids.
That reality being said, how important was that to you? Because you have your own developmental and training programs that you run yourself. So when you see this reality and you see all these kids being pressured into decisions, how important is it for you to have your own, development and training seminar so you can kind of, mold and teach and grow it and help bring these kids along and maybe take some of that pressure off of them?
Yeah, I'm really thankful for the platform that I just kind of found myself rolling to even 10 years ago, to form a Facebook page, to have an Instagram account with tens of thousands of followers, because I want to be there for somebody that's a kind of a voice of reason and reassurance and peace for these, not just the players, but for the families too, to make them feel like it's okay and that they're doing the right thing. So when it all comes down to it, like that was definitely a goal of mine to develop from the ground up, just pitching wise, but also mentally wise or mentality wise, being able to give advice and pointers and tips to these athletes and families to make them feel a little bit more at ease in the process as they're hearing a lot of different things from different people who have different motives. And I always wanted to be somebody that was just there for everybody, not just PGF or the college game or that, like I wanted to be there for everybody, and not really have a bias and just have a sound mind.
Was there a moment when you realized how big of an impact you were having and kind of took a little bit more, weight with it and knew that you were having that big impact on the people around you?
Yeah, I feel like honestly, when the slow motion video of my mechanics came out, that's on YouTube, that just has probably close to 2 million views on it. Whenever I started to see that make an impact in conversations that people were having with me, messages that people were sending to me about how much that they were using that video for their foundational mechanics and how they compared their picture to my video. It was, I don't know, this is probably 2013, 2012, around there. I started to see the impact that you could have on the internet and the impact that you can have in videos and with your words and post. And I wanted to be able to reach more than just pictures in Houston, more than just pictures in Texas. I wanted to be able to reach pictures all around the world with my words and videos. So that kind of motivated me to be able to make more videos and be able to put out more information, knowing that people were listening and that I had a platform and that I could really use it for good.
People are watching this and they want to kind of get involved with your training and in your developmental programs. What are some of the first steps they should take and how would they get involved with what you do?
I feel like the first step would be to follow me on Facebook or Instagram. So I have a Facebook business page. It's Amanda Scarborough Pitching Angel. And then also on Instagram at Pitching Angel. And where I just put out a ton of free information. Honestly, like I just put out so much information that's all in the archives too. I mean, I've had that page since 2010 and it just collects and collects. And then you can also go to my website, pitching-angel.com. I do online pitching courses that you're able to self-pace and go through videos where I can teach you no matter where you live and give you a progression and workouts and new drills and focuses and things to be able to enhance your workouts, enhance your mechanics, and enhance your mindset.
You also have the big platform on ESPN. I'm sure everyone that's a fan of softball knows who you are, at least knows your voice from the softball broadcast. How did you kind of get into that job, and how much do you love calling these games and being able to be a voice for softball fans around the country?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Oh my gosh, it's just my favorite thing. I mean, I love coaching too, absolutely. I feel so lucky that I get to do two of my passions. And honestly, probably both of them stemmed from the same thing, which was an injury that I had my senior year at A&M. Um, I ended up having a career-ending foot injury in February my senior year, and it pushed me into more of a coaching role on our team. And coaching was not something that I thought that I wanted to do. I thought that I wanted to be done with softball. Sorry. And because I had so much attention with that, we ended up making the World Series, playing the national championship game. And it came with a lot of attention. And I think because of that attention that I got from it ended up rolling into an opportunity the very following year that I got a call from my current boss at ESPN to call a super regional game, because she had produced some of our own games, A&M versus Texas and Oklahoma maybe, and some other games. She had been around me. And so she, without even knowing in it, I had made an impression on her because I was usually one of the players that got to talk to the talent that came in to call the games. And she was always just around as a producer, like kind of lurking in the background. And she felt like I would be good at articulating the game based off of the pregame interviews that we had before our games. So you never know who's watching, right? So that her being around and hearing me talk got me to get to do my first game. My first super regional was UCLA in Missouri, or Missouri at UCLA, and has just grown and grown and grown from that point, because that was in 2009. And now I do the World Series and I've done it for 6 years now.
and you've been able to see not just the sport grow, but the coverage of the sport grow since 2009. How proud are you to work for a company that really puts effort into covering softball and really makes it a priority during the spring? And now we see hundreds of games on the ESPN platforms. And what does that do for you as someone that works for them and then just a softball fan in general?
Just so incredible. I think our sport's so amazing to begin with, and the fact that more people get to watch it makes me so happy. And I give so much credit to my boss, who's the one who called me to do that super regional, Mega Ronowitz, who has just had the leading voice and behind the scenes conversations with ESPN and pushing for softball to be bigger and more coverage and better coverage. So without Meg, it's just like, where would softball be? We don't know. You can hypothetically talk about it, but Meg has just been instrumental in ESPN and growing the sport. So it's so fun to see. Like Longhorn Network was big, I think, for the sport because there were more games on then. Then came SEC Network, and then came ACC Network, and even before LHN, Anthony, there was ESPNU. Like whenever that formed in 2005, that was a big step for our sport too, because it gave more avenues to be able to put softball on TV that weren't on the main platforms of ESPN, ESPN2. So if people see it, they love it. So it's just the growth has come from being able to use more platforms like I just named, and of course streaming on the ESPN app. Because like you said, I think about your story with softball, like just once you're in front of it, you fall in love with it. And that's why we're growing so much, because just more people are able to see it, know about it, watch it, fall in love with it, and then continue that love for it from years moving forward.
Let's talk about the Seven Innings podcast. And I think softball fans just absolutely love it. And it's what, third season now, I believe. What has that been like? I think it gives you guys a deeper coverage of the sport. It lets you guys dive into maybe some players that maybe won't get coverage during the ESPN cycle, but can get a shout out on those Seven Innings podcasts. And what's that kind of like to have that? And what has it been like to see that grow for the last three seasons?
Yeah, I think it really expands our coverage. I think that you hit the nail on the head. And it's fun for us to come together as a team too, because it's not very often in a season that 6 or 7 of us all get to be in the same place talking about the sport. And I can speak for myself, and I think speak for the others too, that it helps in our preparation, because we're each going to come and look at a team or a game or a player from a different mindset, from slapping with Caleb Rowe to catching with Jen Schroeder to a hitter's mindset with Jenny Dalton Hill. And Michelle and I, of course, think really, really similarly because we both pitch and hit, but she's a lefty too. So we each think of the sport and teams and matchups in a different way. And so we all help each other. And I feel like we all expand each other's knowledge just on the sport, because it's hard to cover every single team all by yourself too. So us coming together to do that not only expands our coverage, but expands each of our knowledge to be able to go into games and call it.
I'm glad you brought up preparation. Talk about the work that goes in behind the scenes, because people only hear the broadcast, but they don't understand kind of the things that you guys do during the week to make sure you're prepared for that broadcast and make sure that you're as knowledgeable as possible. So talk about the time and the work that goes into, behind the scenes of the broadcast.
Yeah, you definitely want to study each team's schedule, their stats, go back and look at history. I like to compare, okay, this hitter is hitting 400 this year. What did she do last year? What did she do her freshman year, to be able to see growth and to be able to document their journey? So we'll do some individual practice on our own, kind of checking out stats, schedules, teams, like the story of the season. And then we also get an opportunity to get on a Zoom and meet with each head coach before every game. So that's where we can talk to them for 30, 45 minutes and kind of ask any questions that of any stats or moments of the year that have stuck out to us, get to know the players a little bit better, all to be able to tell each team and each individual story. And so that you're able to track it as a fan along the way and get to know them and what they've been through, and kind of tell you more beyond just what you're seeing on the screen within the game.
What were some of the things that you maybe struggled with when you started color commentating that you've had to grow with through the years, and now, seasoned veteran on the mic? What were some things that when you started out that you had to kind of grow in and learn from?
I think one would be just talking too much. I think that you study so hard. We just talked about the preparation, right? So you want to be able to say everything and let everybody know all these great things and facts about these teams and players. And you start to learn like a different cadence and find the right time and moments to share those things. And you start to feel like, okay, it's okay if I don't say this stat in a game, and you just leave it on the paper and nobody ever finds out about it, because it's better for the game, it's better for the broadcast, for the viewer at home to not just feel so overwhelmed with information. So I feel like that's probably the biggest thing. And I still like to talk too much, but just to be more efficient with what I'm saying and more punctual, to be able to get in and get out and just document the game and not get in the way of the game. That's not our job as a broadcaster, is to be bigger than the game or make the game about us, because the game at the end of the day is going to be the number one top priority, and cover that and then fill in the moments with the great stories that I was talking about and stats along the way.
Do you have a favorite game you've called or a favorite moment in the broadcast that you've been a part of?
Hmm. I feel like the UCLA Washington game in the World Series when Rachel Garcia hit the walk-off was a really big one. My first ever game at the World Series, I think, was Florida Auburn. In fact, the first like 4 teams that I covered at the World Series were all SEC games, which is just a really weird day that there were like 2 SEC matchups at the World Series. So those are probably some that stick out. Another memorable one is the Florida walk-off against A&M, actually, in Gainesville and Super Regionals. That I just felt so sad for A&M, but at the same time so excited for Florida and that moment that they got to have. Like, that's a memorable moment too. So just conflicting in my mind, not conflicting, because I mean, I genuinely was happy for them. At the same time, it's like, there's A&M, they're on the field. So that's definitely another memorable one too, was that super regional in Florida. Jordan Matthews got to walk off.
Can't let you go without talking some softball, talking some college softball this year pertaining to it. From your perspective, how have teams kind of handled this kind of crazy 2021 where there are different protocols and they didn't get to play a full season last year and there's all these crazy things that are going on and the perseverance it took to kind of get this season started and to succeed in this season?
I think they've handled it beautifully. I think that if you're a fan watching and you don't know that we're in a pandemic and that these athletes are having to have different protocols and go through different things than in a normal year, you would never know. The product on the field, in my mind, is completely normal and an abnormal situation. And so you have to give so much credit to the administrations, the schools, the coaches, the players for literally, it's so normal. And it is just everything but normal for what they're having to go through on and off the field, and be more isolated, be more careful, and just already on to the plate that they already had before COVID, which was a really, really full plate. So I think that it's been fantastic. I think even bigger is the fact that our postseason will be somewhat normal. And I know that a lot of fans and coaches and teams are really, really excited about that.
What can you say about the atmospheres you've seen? I mean, I watch them on TV, and even though they're the capacity crowds, man, these fans are bringing it. It's like they're taking on the challenge of being louder with less people there.
Yeah, I think that you can just hear them more because it's more quiet, right? So you pick up like the mad dad or the crazy fan that's like just so upset about the strike zone. But yeah, they've definitely been feisty, and it just makes me think every time I'm at a game, it's like, gosh, especially like Florida, Alabama last weekend. It's like, how many fans and what would this atmosphere be like if there weren't restrictions? Like, it would be out of this world. So it's good to see like the passion of fans still going on for the ones that can show up, and just imagine a world without COVID, or if that even exists, but in years to come, what the fans and crowds are going to be like whenever we have less restrictions and things can somewhat get back to normal.
I think everyone saw what Oklahoma did to Texas over the weekend. Do you think that raises their stock a little bit? And because before that, everyone was saying, well, maybe Oklahoma's not tested. Maybe they're. Do you think that was kind of a statement for Oklahoma to say, everyone can just calm down. We are this good.
Yeah, I think that they definitely had a chip on their shoulder to go out and prove everybody wrong. But at the same time, we're here to analyze, right? Oklahoma really hadn't played anybody except for Arizona State. So it's like, yes, they've done all these wonderful things, and they're big batting average, slugging, home runs, but it's like, will they do it against a good team? And they did. So they rose up to the occasion, made a huge statement. I mean, unbelievable, that team. Like, I don't know if anybody will beat them. They might go undefeated. So I feel like that in itself is a story right now to follow, to see if and when Oklahoma might lose and who will beat them. Like, who will it be in the World Series? Will it be before that? Just they don't seem like they're slipping up ever in any aspect of the game. So it's hard to see them losing because of just how strong they're playing top to bottom in all parts of the game.
Has there been any teams that have really surprised you this year, or has been, exceeding expectations that you kind of see and you, wow, they're really putting something special together?
Yeah, there's been a few. I think Clemson is on that list. I feel like Clemson has a really special team. Virginia Tech as well over in the ACC. Keely Richard is awesome. Another team that's been catching my eye as of late is Ole Miss. Love the way that they're playing with Jamie Traxel and their first year head coach. I feel like they're super competitive, very fiery, literally in every game. Like all their losses lately have either been 1 or 2 run losses, a lot of close games. So they're a team that knows how to play in that close game. Also UCF and Wichita State, a couple of teams that we don't normally get to talk about in the mid-major conferences that are really making some noise, and that I think that can also make noise not only now but in the postseason.
And before we let you, I want to take this back full circle back to the high school kids that are probably listening to this when it gets posted. What's some advice that you give to the kids that are just going through this recruitment process? Recruitment's been crazy last summer and this fall. What's some advice that you give to the kids that are just trying to get recruited, trying to get seen, trying to work to play at the next level?
Definitely to go to camps and clinics if you can in your area or even outside of your area that are run by the college coaches. I think that that's such a great way to get to see the school and get to know the coaches. I mentioned that that's what I did, but I would recommend that to anybody. And I think too, to have patience, to not compare your journey to anybody else's journey. Some things will happen fast, some things will happen slow. But at the end of the day, I think we all know this, life has a way of balancing itself out to where if one thing happens fast for some things for someone else, maybe another thing happens slow. So don't compare your journey to anybody else's journey. Just stay within yourself and do everything that you can do to put yourself in the best position to get recruited, and good things will come your way.
Man, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It was very fun to talk to you. Thank you so much again, and we look forward to hearing you on the call throughout the rest of the season.
Thanks for having me.